Hello and welcome to another exciting mathematics video. In this video, we're going to take another look into the TI-89, some tips and tricks to get you ready for that SAT test. So this will be part 2. Hopefully you've watched my part 1 video and learned some of the basics. In this video, we're going to be more dealing with the graphing and the table features. As always, do not forget to make sure that your TI-89 is set to degree mode. There are no radians at all anywhere on the SAT test. Okay, so some important keys today. Again, we're going to see a lot of the green diamond key. We used that before a lot in the last video. That allows us to access the green labeled items above the buttons. And now we're going to use a lot of these round function keys, F1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We will see those pop up in a menu in the screen. And notice above those keys we have in green this Y equals. We have a window key, a graph key, table set, and a table key. We'll be going over each of those in this video. So first, let's put a function into the Y editor, and here are the 2 steps you will do to make that happen. You're going to hit the green diamond key, and then that should be F1. F1. Green diamond F1 is your Y editor. So if we hit that, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. We've got Y1 equals, Y2 equals, Y3, so on and so forth. Let's go into that Y1 and type in a function. Let's do x squared plus 3. So you're going to hit x, the up caret key, and 2, and then a plus 3. When you hit enter, you're going to see it look just like this, x squared plus 3 on the display. Okay, so now as soon as we put that function into the Y editor, the graph is going to, or the calculator is going to graph the function and at the same time create a table of values. First, let's check out the graph. So now you hit the green diamond key and you hit F3. That's our graph key. And of course, you'll see the graph appear in the window. And then notice here the function menu at the top of the screen. Here in the display, you're going to have F1 tools, F2 zoom, F3 trace, F for regraph, F5 is math, and so on and so forth. So we can use those round function keys to access those menus. Now when I graphed mine, it looks something like this. I have my XY axes appear in the middle, and I've got an upward opening parabola. Looks like that. Okay, now one of the most used keys, function keys, will be that F2 zoom key. So if you're on your graphing screen and you hit F2, you will see the following things pop down. There's actually more than that, and that is our zoom menu. The ones we're going to use quite a bit are zoom in and zoom out. Once you choose one or the other and hit enter, you'll see a blinking cursor show up on the screen, and it asks you to pick a new center to zoom out from or zoom in to. So pick a new center and then hit enter again. But another couple useful ones on here. Let's use this one right now. Zoom standard. So if you hit the F2 zoom key and choose number 6, what zoom standard does is make sure your X and Y axis is right in the middle of the graph. If for some reason your graph was sort of off center, zoom standard will bring it back into play. This zoom square, we use that once in a while. That just makes sure the scaling on your x-axis is exactly the same as on your y-axis. So those are the ones we will use here the most. Again, right now do the zoom standard, and again you'll see that parabola appear, opening up. Now when we chose this graphing feature, we sort of got a standard setup window. What if you want a custom sized window? What if you want to choose how much of the graph to show on the X and the Y axis? Well, that is the F2 window key. If I go back here, F2, we'll hit green diamond F2, and then we will be able to customize our window. So if we hit that right now, let me see if I hit that on my calculator. I've got my basic default ones in there. I've got X min as -10. X max is +10. My x-axis scaling is 1. My y min is -10, y max is 10, and my y scaling is also 1. Now we can change these to whatever we want. If I go back to my graph here, so when we have our mins and maxes at -10 and 10, that means this x value way over here is -10. The one way to the right is +10, and same on the y-axis. +10 would be at the top, -10 would be at the bottom, and we have our origin right in the middle. But we can set that screen to whatever we want. Because our parabola opens up, we could make our x-min equal to 0. And let's even try that. I got my calculator in my hand. I'm putting 0 in for x-min, and I hit enter. And, oh, well, I kind of did that sort of backwards here. So if we made x-min 0, now our x-axis or our y-axis is right here on the screen. So what you're only going to see is half of the parabola. So I've still got my y-axis going right, or my x-axis going right through the middle, but now I only see this part of the parabola because I've detailed my x-axis only to go from 0 to 10. The other part that went over here to -10, we've sort of cut that out. So let's go back into that window again, green diamond F2. Let's put our max back at, or our x-min back at -10. And now let's change our y-min to 0. So if you go down and change y-min to 0 and then go back to your graph, now you're only going to see the first and the second quadrants. So here's my window. Now my x-axis is at the bottom of the screen because that is y value 0, and now I only see the parabola up here in quadrants 1 and 2. So now my graph looks more like this. So you can set your scaling and your x and y axis to any values that you want. What's up? Let's go back to the graph, green diamond F2, or green diamond F3, and let's do zoom and take it back to standard. Zoom standard. So get back into that zoom menu and choose zoom standard. That will put your x and y axis, the origin, right back in the middle. Okay, now another neat thing we can do here when you're on the graph screen is use the tracing feature. So now, if I'm in my screen, I'm looking across here at the top, and we've got our F1, F2, F3 is the trace feature. So if you're on your screen, and you got your graph set up, I'm just going to draw a window here. Here's my x and y axis, and I have my parabola opening up. As soon as I hit my trace key, I get a little blinking cursor. Mine is just off the y-axis right about here, and it's slowly blinking. So once we've hit that, now we can move that key or that around using these arrow keys. We can use the arrow keys to move that blinking cursor along the graph. And notice down in the bottom of the display, here on the left side, you'll see XC. That is your X coordinate of the blinking cursor. And you'll also see YC. That is the Y coordinate of your blinking cursor. Again, here's my x and y axis. I have my parabola opening up, and I have my blinking cursor on there. If I start pushing the left arrow key, I'm going to move along the graph toward the left. If I hit the right arrow key, I'm going to move along to the right. So using that left and right can move this around, and again, you can see your x and y coordinates at the bottom. All right. Also, in addition to a graph, this calculator will make a table of values for any function that you put into the y-editor. So first, let's go to the table set key. That'll be green diamond F4, takes you to table set. This is going to allow us to set up the table however we would like. So you'll see, let me move this over. You'll see these features right here, and then you'll have a box. Now, maybe you won't be able to type in the box right away. We're going to have to go down to this part here for independent, and it will either be in auto or ask. If it's in ask, you won't be able to type in the boxes up here. So let's make sure we're put into automatic. So choose auto there, and you're going to probably have to hit enter twice. Auto. No, you don't even have to hit enter. As soon as I turned that to auto, I can now type in these boxes up here. And what we can do is tell our table to start at any x value we want. And we can also have it jump numbers by any amount that we want. So let's go to our table start. Let's have it start at -5. Put a -5 in to start the table. And we're going to do whole numbers. So let's put a 1 in for our delta table. That little triangle there, that's the Greek letter delta, meaning the change in. So how often will we change on the x-axis? Well, we're just going to do whole numbers. Okay, now that we've got that set up, I haven't done that on my calculator yet. -5 for table start, 1 for delta table. And now we can go to the table, green diamond F5. So go to the table, hit that green diamond key again, and F5. And your table's going to look something like this. Oops. Okay, now since we set our table to start at -5, you'll see -5 at the top here in the X column, and then they'll go by whole numbers. -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, and so on. And then you will see the Y values. 28, 19, 12, 7, 4, and so on. Oops, get out of there. If we went back to the Y editor and put in functions for Y2 and Y3 and Y4, we can have as many columns as we want for different function outputs. So here, again, we put in the X value and the Y value pops out of our function. But the calculator did all the work for us. Now, what if we want only to put in certain inputs into our table? Let's go back to that table set feature and change that auto to ask. So if I hit my calculator again, that is green diamond F4. I scroll down to where it says auto. I'm going to use my right arrow and down to hit ask, and then hit enter again. Hit enter again to save it. We got to hit enter twice, once to choose, once to save, and then we can go back to the table. Green diamond F5. Now, instead of automatically filling them in, we can type in any X value that we want. So just anywhere in there, just type in X equals 101.5, and you hit enter. If I go back here, when I type that in, 101.5 right here, the computer or the calculator gave me out the value 10,305. 10,305. And I should have pointed out when we had it set to ask, or excuse me, to automatic, and we had all our numbers fill in auto, -5, 4, -3, -2, we can just scroll down and scroll up. So to find the output for 101.5, we could have scrolled down well past 100. Or we'd have to change our setting to 0.5s. Easier way to do it is just set our calculator to ask mode. Then we can type in the number that we want and see the output associated with that input. What else do we have? Okay, so we've done the basics here with graphs and tables. Now it's time for a little practice on your own. So, after I go through these directions, you should pause the video and then try these out. And then you can start the video back up and see if your answers match mine. So for this practice problem, you're going to set your window from -5 to 5 for both the X and the Y values. You're going to graph this function in the Y editor, 0.5x cubed minus x. And then bring up your graph. Draw a little rectangle on your paper and copy your graph into this rectangle. And then go to the table feature and find the Y values for these two different X values, 5 and -3. So again, take a moment, pause the video, try those out, and then start the video back up, and I'll let you know if your answers were correct. See if I can make this box a little bigger. Okay, so hopefully you went into the table set feature and you changed your X-min, X-max, and Y-min and Y-max to a 5. And you typed the function into the Y editor. Now here's what my graph looks like. Since we've zoomed in pretty good, it looks like a 1 mark here and here. My graph comes in a little bit to the left of this one at -1, goes down through the origin, comes up on this side, and then is up and off the graph. So yours should look something like that if you've done your scaling right and you have your function put in there properly. Now, make sure your table is set to ask, and we can go to the Y editor, or excuse me, to the table feature and find those outputs. So again, here's X and here's Y. So when you type in X is 5, you should get out 57.5. 0.5, there we go. And for the input of -3, out comes a -10.5. Alrighty, there we go. That's just a nice intro to graphs and tables on the TI-89. In class, we will do some more practice problems. I'll have a couple for you to do in your groups. And then at the end, I'll have another one that we will do independently and then compare our answers. All right, see you in class.